This is my gorgeous Junglearium and I spent around 2 years building it, but unfortunately it looks like I will need to tear it down. And no, this is not a clickbait and there won't be a haha gotcha in this video because I actually will need to tear it down. There are some major flaws with the design of the Junglearium and I've been aware of in the last 3 or 4 months that I will need to do this, but I was kind of hoping that the problems will resolve on their own, but they aren't resolving and they're just getting worse and worse. So this was kind of inevitable, but it is what it is. I started building the Junglearium in the end of 2021, so almost 2.5 years, or actually exactly 2.5 years when I started this build. And officially I finished it 6 months ago. So it was 2 years in development, in the construction process, but I was building it for such a long time only because, first of all, this was by far the biggest project for me and everything inside was new and I had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own because there weren't stuff like this on the YouTube and I didn't really had anyone to ask for advice. So of course I did some mistakes, and as I was building the enclosure, as I was building the Junglearium, I was aware of some mistakes, some design mistakes, but they were just of cosmetic nature, you know, they weren't really a problem. But before I even finished the Junglearium, I was already aware that I could build a much better version of the Junglearium, and I definitely plan to do it somewhere in the future, but I didn't know that the Junglearium will actually fail and force me to do it before I would be comfortable with making a new enclosure of that type. So as I said, I started the build at the end of 2021 and everything that I did inside was new to me. I learned how to lay bricks, I learned how to cover them with mortar and all that stuff. I was using the hydro isolation for the first time and that was actually the biggest mistake that I did. I went to a store that keeps hydro isolation stuff and I talked to people working there. I explained them what am I doing, what I actually need, and they offered me this type of hydro isolation that is in 2 components. One is liquid, the other one is powder. You mix those up and you have like half an hour to spread the hydro isolation on the wall and you need to cover it 2 times. You need to use it 2 times. I actually used it 3 times and on top of that I also added a paint that is also kind of water resistant for the concrete, and people working in the store told me that that should work out, but obviously it doesn't really work and I have a couple of leaks in the Junglearium. The leaks that I see aren't terrible, but if there are leaks that I can see, most likely there are also leaks in the back where I cannot really see and that just go into my wall. So that is something that is really not healthy for the foundation of the house because this is in the basement and if the wall will get wet, I will have long-term problems. And the second problem is I have drywall on the ceiling, and when we were renovating this basement, we put a regular drywall on top, not thinking that I will do something like this in this corner. So therefore the drywall above the Junglearium is not the water-resistant type of drywall. And now I'm noticing that there is a lot of mold on top that is developing on top, and not only that is developing on top inside of the Junglearium, but also it is now spreading outside of the Junglearium. So obviously the drywall is getting wet and the moisture is now creeping out. I'm going to show you everything in a minute. I just wanted to lay down all the problems first. Actually, those are the only problems that I have with the Junglearium that requires me to tear it down. Other than that, I have the cosmetic problems. I mean cosmetic things that I already mentioned a bunch of times in the video, so you are probably aware of those. That are not a problem, but definitely something that I dislike. Of course, I wouldn't tear down the Junglearium because of them. Most of those problems will resolve eventually, you know, the sides that I didn't cover and the back that I didn't cover. But that would get covered with plants eventually, just not that quickly. Also, I didn't really do a proper ventilation, and that is also the reason why there is probably a constant mold issue on the top of the enclosure. Probably if I added more circular ventilation within the Junglearium that would run most of the time, the mold probably wouldn't be as prominent, but it is hard to tell now because everything is so moist inside. And as I said, ceiling is a dry wall that is obviously getting wet through that hydro isolation. So yeah, not an ideal situation, but there are solutions. As I said, I can just build a new Junglearium And that is exactly what I plan to do. And because of the fact that the hydroisolation is failing, I need to do it relatively quickly. But thankfully, even though I spent 2 years building this one, that doesn't mean that I will spend 2 years to build a new Junglearium, because currently the situation is completely different. First of all, I have the experience. I know all the things that, at least I know what awaits me, so I can prepare for that. I know everything that I need. And also, in 3 months, my daughter will start going to a daycare, which means that I will have much more time to spend here building the new Junglearium. In case you don't know, ever since my wife went back to work, I was at home with my daughter, which means that every day until she came back, I couldn't really come here and do anything. I only spent time with my daughter, so yeah, even though I'm grateful for that time, I'm kind of now looking forward to have more free time to spend here and do stuff. So yeah, let me tell you now the plans and also show you the problems. Actually, let me show off for just a second. Would you look at this beauty? This is the packaging for the Dark Den Enclosures, you see? Because your Tarantula deserves the best, huh? I am honestly loving this. Look, all the features, how to use the enclosure, other features, all the information here, everything is on the packaging and it is looking, I would say, pretty slick, right? Huh? Yeah, I'm hoping to get these bad boys in the store, so a neat package is a must, right? Anyhow, back to the Junglearium. So, leak problems and mold problems. Firstly, if we look inside, you see all of this mold on the ceiling. Yeah, and I can't really do anything about it. I can wash it, but it just comes back. Oh, the light is really messing up with camera. But here lies the real problem. You see how the mold is coming out of the Junglearium. And not only here, but also here and also here. A real problem. And there is really nothing that I can do now. I cannot fix it, I can't wash it and keep washing it, but the mold will come back and come back and come back every time. And every time it will probably spread more and more because it is getting in the drywall. So yeah, that is an impossible to solve problem. While the second one that I said is, of course, this leak down there. Oh, I will need light. Now you can see, and if you remember when I originally showed you this problem, this leak was much smaller and now it is getting just bigger and bigger and this light is kind of dying. Sorry for the flashing, but most likely this was my fault because I pulled one big plant from here and I pulled the roots from over there, and probably the plant had the roots stick to the hydroisolation on the bottom, and when I pulled the plant, the roots probably pulled the hydroisolation. So that is most likely the reason why there is this leak that is so big. But there are more leaks. More leaks or just one leak, I am not sure, but you see over there, there is moisture over there constantly, and honestly I cannot even figure out from where it is coming. Probably somewhere behind where I cannot see it, but I have no idea honestly. Also another problem that I cannot really fix, and with time it will only get worse and worse and worse. And now when I'm looking at this wall, this also looks like some sort of mold. I'm not really sure if the Junglearium is caused, but I didn't even notice this until now. I rarely turn on the lights, only when I'm doing the videos or something, but usually when I'm checking out stuff here, the light is turned off, so yeah. Great, great, getting better and better, as I said. But at least the life in the Junglearium is developing beautifully. So at least I know that I did one thing right, and that is the setup inside. The humidity, the temperatures, everything seems to be perfect for the plants and also for the animals, but it is not without a hiccup. And I gave you a hint in last Junglearium video that I'm thinking that I will need to move these Dendrobates auratus out of the Junglearium. Now I gave up on that idea because I have a kind of solution, but I didn't really explain the problem, so let me start with that. I lost 3 frogs by now, 3 Dendrobates auratus frogs, and if you look at them, they might seem a bit skinny, or at least skinnier than these orange frogs. That is the major problem. I'm feeding these frogs with fruit flies, and the way I'm feeding them, I just take a bunch of fruit flies and dump them in the enclosure, which is okay, it works without a problem. The frogs come, eat the flies, and everyone is happy. But the problem is, these orange frogs are much more aggressive when it comes to feeding. Not in a term of aggressive towards the Dendrobates auratus, even though I noticed that they are sometimes shooing them away, but they are also shooing each other. They are aggressive in a term of how fast they eat the flies. With time I noticed that it is a rule that when I would dump flies, while Dendrobates auratus get 1 or 2 flies, these will get at least 10 flies on their own. They are much faster when it comes to flies, they spot them much better, and they just go much crazier them, which end in them getting much more flies, while Dendrobates auratus get apparently too little flies. And I noticed that they are a bit skinnier, but I wasn't too much concerned until you see how they are approaching and checking out the situation. The greens one are already here, but the orange one just came when they noticed, and yeah, they are super aggressive in that way. So the way I lost those 3 frogs, and when I say lost, I mean they died, I would see that they are skinnier, then I wouldn't spot those frogs, and then one by one I would notice them somewhere coming out, and they were like super skinny. I would take them out of the enclosure, put them in a separate enclosure, but at that point they would already be like almost lethargic and not really interested in food and not eat enough to get their strength back, which would of course lead to death. And that is definitely my fault for not checking them out enough. You know, I would just check out where they are, I would see some, I wouldn't see some, I would dump the flies and I would be done with it. And I didn't really spend time observing how they are eating and how much flies do they actually get. Because if I did that from the start, I would notice that Dendrobates auratus is getting far less flies and that they are getting skinnier and skinnier. Now, as you see, I still didn't separate them and they still are skinny, especially this one. But this one was much skinnier. All 3 Dendrobates auratus are gaining weight. Look at this. Are you aggressive towards my finger? What? Well, pip, 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 pip. What a ballsy guy, huh? Anyhow, what I'm doing now, I'm now individually feeding each Dendrobates auratus frog, making sure that they get enough flies. And while I'm doing that, I am feeding these on a separate spot while feeding them individually. It is more work, but at least it works for now. Let me show you. I will grab some flies. A healthy amount of flies. Also, I had to significantly ramp up my fly production because a lot of flies also get away, so yeah. Okay, even though they're all together now, I would like lure these with flies here, and while they are occupied with that, I would just individually feed this one. Like one by one. And you see, this one is already grabbing. So I will dump more over there and feed this guy. And you see how slow it is. He's like checking out the flies and taking his time while these are going like crazy at the flies. Oh, finally it got it. Here you go. You see, if that was orange frog, this fly would be a long gun. But this one is like, okay. And that was even a fail. Where is the other Dendrobates auratus? Let's feed her. Ooh, I dumped a lot. Yeah, and new orange one is already coming. And they are not wasting their time, like, at all. You want some more? You see, I really need to do it one by one, because if I dump more, he usually does not get any. Or she. I don't really know if that is a male or female. Here we go. So 2 flies that I dumped directly in front of him. The orange ones already got them, so yeah. And also we have some other inhabitants that we need to feed. See down there? Unfortunately I have a wide angle lens so I cannot zoom at it, but there is one Clemeri lizard, a day gecko, coming here to claim his flies. And look who we have here. The other lizards, the morning gecko. And as someone pointed out in the last video, I said that these are called morning geckos, and of course that they come during the morning. But then someone pointed out that they are not called morning gecko, but morning geckos, if I'm pronouncing that right, but the completely different word, not morning, but yeah, the other word that is pronounced basically identical, or I don't know, English, it's hard. But I now often notice them going through these bamboos because I'm dumping more and more flies over here because of the day geckos. Come on, give us a takedown. No, you're not hungry? Oh, definitely not hungry. Whatever. Someone will eventually grab those flies. Most likely the orange frogs. This little buddy is on the leaf. Are you going to jump somewhere? Ooh, where did it go? Oh, here. Ah, you actually spotted the fly. You see? He got... Oh, okay. Are you a camera shy? Did you forget that I'm the one that is giving you the flies, huh? Okay, anyhow, let's dump the rest of the flies. And I will tell you the plans for the new Junglearium. Before these burning problems became apparent, and I was just toying with the ideas of what would be the logical progression of the Dark Den and what would be the next big thing that I would do, I was seriously considering turning this entire room into a huge Junglearium, the mega Junglearium, to have a small lake here in this corner, and the crown jewel of that enclosure would be a caiman crocodile. But the more and more I was thinking about it, the more and more I realized how crazy and financially challenging that idea would be. Not to mention that I would need to hydro-insulate the whole room, hoping that I will have no leaks. And even though now I would use a different product that supposedly would fix these problems that I have here, but still that would be a really risky deal. And not to mention financially, my electricity bill is substantial, and especially since I got the Junglearium, it went noticeably up. And now imagine lighting up this entire room and also heating it enough for the caiman crocodile. You need to have a heated pool inside. So yeah, I was thinking about it, and the more I was thinking, I was like, is that really a smart thing? Yeah, I don't think so. And now the most logical solution would be to get everything out, fix all the problems, put new drywall on top that is humidity resistant, put new hydro-isolation, better hydro-isolation, and at the same time solve all the cosmetical problems. That would be the logical solution, but the problem is, what would I do with all these plants and animals? I mean, I have enclosures, I could house each of the animals in separate enclosures, but plants, I have nowhere to put all these plants, and it would be such a waste to give up on all these plants. So obviously I need to build a new Junglearium while I still have this Junglearium. And there is really only one possible spot for it, so let me show you. We need to go in the other room because I will build it right here. From this point up to here and up to this point. And it will be perfect. This is the perfect spot. And even though it is currently occupied with all this stuff, as you know, I'm building a garage where I will move all the enclosure production. So all of this is enclosure production related and webshop related. So that will go out together with all the tools and all the stuff that I have in the third room, small room. But it is more than enough for this roach box. So that will also go over there. And then I will have this entire spot empty. Perfect for a Junglearium. And I'm not entirely sure if I want to go the entire length, so all the way to here. Maybe I will do it like here. It all depends on the glass panels and stuff. But up to here it is more than 3 meters, while Junglearium is 2.5 meters. So it will be a tiny bit bigger than the Junglearium, and it will feel much bigger than Junglearium because I will have this substrate level much lower. I mean, not much lower, but lower, and this top level higher. So the opening of the enclosure will be much higher, therefore the enclosure will feel more open and bigger. So what do you think? I know that we just got the Junglearium set up and everything is maturing and getting where it should be, but I'm hoping that this will be an even better thing. And unlike Junglearium, I really plan to make it much faster. I would say by the end of the year that would be my goal, although I'm not sure how realistic that is. I will do the preparations in the next few months, and the goal is to start at the beginning of September. That is the 9th month, right? September, October, November, yes. Starting from September, I will start with this build. So yeah, this was definitely a video that I knew that I will do eventually, but I didn't really thought that I will do it this quick. But regardless, I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, thumbs it up and comment something. If you want to support this channel more, there's a Patreon page and also a merch page with acrylic enclosures. I upload every Monday and sometimes a live stream on Sunday, so see you again really soon. Bye!